Welcome back to Travel to Learn. This is Beyond the Basics. We are talking pre-dive safety checks. Let's dive into it. The best divers know that safety starts before you even hit the water. Pre-dive safety checks are your first line of defense against potential issues. What if I told you that a simple 5-point step that takes only 5 minutes can save your dive and possibly even your life? Let's make sure to never skip these steps again. In upcoming modules, we'll discuss and dive into more advanced dive planning. But for now, let's focus on building the foundation with these checks. The purpose of these pre-dive safety checks are there to ensure that you are mentally and physically prepared for the dive, that you prevent malfunctions on your equipment and setup errors. It can create a good habit for teamwork and communication skills between your dive buddy, but it also helps prevent some of the more common mistakes that I've seen, like a loose cylinder band, which if you don't tighten your cylinder properly, halfway through the dive it can come loose. Or another big one that I see, people quickly taking their regulator, going 2 breaths of air without looking at their gauge and actually not seeing that the needle is dropping, then only to roll back into the water to find out that the air was turned off. All these common mistakes can be avoided by simply following the 5-point BWRAF check that we'll cover in a moment. The BWRAF method also can stand for begin with, review and friend, or burger with relish and fries. Whatever acronym you have for this check, it doesn't matter. The point being to check these 5 things in order. This check generally happens on the setup process of your equipment as well as just before you go into the water. The first one is the B. The B stands for BCD. So here you want to check that your BCD inflates and deflates, and you also want to inspect your BCD for any leaks. So during the setup process, what I like to do is get behind my cylinder once I've set it up, inflate it all the way, and make sure that my bladder actually inflates equally on either side of the cylinder. Sometimes, because I dive with a backplate and harness system, my bladder gets trapped between the cylinder and the backplate itself. Then if I inflate it a little bit, it doesn't actually pop out all the way. So that's the first thing I check. Then what I want to check is, while leaving it inflated, I want to go and inspect all the valves. So all the dump valves on either shoulder and the back. While leaving it inflated, that will give you a good idea. You can even take some water, spray the plugs to make sure there's no bubbles coming out of it. If it is, just give it a simple turn to tighten them up. Just before the dive, when it comes to the B, now you want to do is do the same check again. So inflate your BCD all the way. Make sure it can stay inflated, because now when you're on the boat, you've got your gear all set up. Your dump valves can sometimes get tucked under your weight belt or sitting on it or in between the BCD straps itself. So whenever you inflate the BCD, it automatically deflates and the air gets dumped out the shoulder or the back as you're inflating. So that's quite an important one to check as well. W stands for weights. So during the setup process, this is now where you want to approach your dive guide or your instructor and make sure that you get allocated the right amount of weight. This is important to pull reference from your logbook. If you don't keep logbook, this is probably the sign to start logging your dives. This is a great tool that I've used for many, many years, just especially because if you are diving in a lot of different various conditions like salt water, then in fresh water, then you're in a 5mm suit, then a 3mm suit, your weight changes so often and so much that it's actually good to keep log of it in your book itself. So pull up a reference from your last log, tell the dive guide how much weight you need, and make sure that your dive guides give you the belt, whether it's integrated or a belt, secure your weights, and make sure that you actually check it before you even go on the boat. I've had it so many times before where I'm on the boat, people have claimed to check their dive weights, but the buckle doesn't close or the strap is too small, and then on the boat, while the boat's moving up and down all over the place, now you need to try and make a quick shift plan. So take the belt itself, wrap it around your waist, secure the buckle, make sure it clips off, the length is good, and that you have the right amount of weights. On the boat itself, when you do your weights, secure them before you put your BCD on, if it is a weight belt. Dive pockets you can try and secure in afterwards or beforehand, doesn't matter. So what you want to then do is, once you secure the weight belt around your waist, Again, now when you close the buckle, you want to make sure the actual belt is not pinched between the buckle. If it is pinched, there is a good chance that this will then come loose during the dive itself. Another key tip here is when you do dive with a weight belt and you've got like a thicker wetsuit, like a 5 to 8 or 10 mil wetsuit, it's very important as you dive and go deeper, as the wetsuit compress, you then want to refasten your weight belt as you get to the bottom. Okay, if you don't do that, the wetsuit compresses so much that there's just so much gap between the weight belt itself and the wetsuit that it can sometimes slide off or roll around, which can then mess up with your weight distribution. R is for releases. So yeah, what you want to do is when you get to the dive shop, especially if you are renting equipment from them, when they give you a BCD, don't just start setting it up. Okay, I've had it so many times where people set up their BCDs without actually checking the buckles beforehand, get out on the boat, drive 2 hours to the dive site, get there, and then sit with a broken buckle. Very difficult to fix, and that could potentially have you sitting on the boat chatting to the dive captain while everybody is diving. So very important, when you get your dive BCD at the shop, put it on, check all the clips, the shoulder one, shoulder, check the cummerband, make sure it actually goes around your waist, make sure the buckle also clips on, and then only you set it up. The releases part to do just before you roll off the boat or do your stride into the water is to then make sure your straps are actually equally tightened. All right, another common mistake people do is they tighten this one a lot and then this one stays loosened. What's going to happen is your BCD is going to shift one side to the other, also messing up with your weight distribution, which can cause to buoyancy issues. So if you struggle to get the clips tightened on land, what I generally do is I leave it. I just leave it all the way open. And then as soon as I roll over the back, once the weight is sort of a little bit evened out by the water, then I tighten my straps up. So if you struggle to tighten it up, either ask your dive guide to lift up the cylinder a bit, tighten your releases, make sure it's equal on either side. And also, it's a good habit while you're diving just to play around with your releases every now and then. It's a good idea and a good practice to have, to be able to, as a buckle loosens underwater, that you can readjust them underwater as well. Another important release to check is the one on the cylinder. So once your BCD is strapped on the cylinder, all you want to do is fasten it as tight as you can, take 2 fingers, and then simply just lift it up and down. If it moves or slides up and down, it's too loose. So refasten it or call your dive guide to come and assist. If you're going to leave it even slightly loose, there is a potential risk of it coming loose during your dive itself, just causing unnecessary problems. A is for air, and this is the most crucial step. The first thing you want to do during the dive setup process is when you have your regulator, whether your own or you're renting, connect it up to the cylinder and start your checks. The first thing you want to do is slowly open up the cylinder all the way and give it a bit of like a quarter turn back. Grab your gauge to confirm that your cylinder is actually full. Then you want to take your second stage, and while you have your gauge in your hand, just give it a little purge. Make sure the purge button is actually working, and then give the air a bit of a sniff. If it's all good, put it in your mouth and take a few deep breaths in. The reason we smell our air is to make sure it doesn't smell stale or smell like oil. If it does smell funny or off to you, call your dive guide and have them sort it out for you. While you're breathing, make also sure that you check your mouthpiece, bite onto it firmly to make sure it can stay in place. Also, a very key point to remember here is inspect the mouthpiece on the top. Sometimes there can be a tear on the top which can cause water to seep in. What I like to do, just so that regulators don't lie or hoses don't lie all over the place, I take my second stage, I turn it into like a little ring, put it through itself and rest it on the top of the first stage. Then I move to my second stage. The second stage, I repeat the process. I take the second stage, give it a purge, make sure it works in my mouth, make sure that I can breathe from it a little bit, inspect the mouthpiece on the top and that you can bite onto it, and then secure it where it needs to go. Most BCDs will have a pocket either on the shoulder strap or on the side strap, or if it doesn't, call your dive guide to either give you a clip so that you can secure it. Remember, it always needs to be within the triangle in the front, not in the back. Now you want to check your air just before you start your dive. Because we have already checked our alternate air source, our second stage. We smelled our air. We know everything is working. Now we just want to confirm that our air is on. That is the most important one. So now you want to grab your gauge, which is on your left-hand side. You want to secure it in its appropriate place. While looking at the gauge, you're just going to take a nice deep few breaths, confirming that that needle doesn't fluctuate. If it doesn't fluctuate, you're good to go. Make sure that your second stage isn't obstructed over your shoulder and it's loose. And then you want to move over to your alternate air source. So because we've already checked it, we don't have to check it again. We just want to now make sure that it is put in its appropriate place. And then F, which is for final check. The final check during the dive setup process is there to safely secure your equipment so that the dive guide or the dive operation can load your equipment onto the boat or carry it down to the shore. So what you want to do here is, now that you've checked your BCD, you've checked your weights, and you've checked your air, now it's time to turn the air off and purge it out all the way. The reason you purge out your air all the way is because then you know when you get your dive gear again on the boat or on the shore, it is completely turned off. So if you take a breath or try to take a breath through your regulator, you're going to get that suction feeling, knowing it's completely off. Avoiding you thinking it's on, but it's actually just turned on partially. All right. Then once you've closed it off all the way, purged out all the air, you want to lie down on its side, take your fins, take your mask, put it inside the fin pocket, or keep your mask around your neck or in its box. Put your fins on top of the BCD, move your weights nice and closely, and remove any clutter around it, like your dive lights, secure them in the pockets, take your dive computer, put it on your wrist. Just clean up the area around it so that if other divers walk up and down, it prevents them from stepping on expensive equipment. On the boat itself, this is the final review where you and your buddy now make sure that all the last little bits and pieces are together. Like, do you have your fins on? Is your mask in position and ready for the entry? Do you have your dive computer? Is it turned on? Is it on the right gas mix? Do you have a camera and is it clipped on, and did you get it back from the dive guide or from the captain? So the final check is just to review everything to make sure that all the last little bits and pieces that you need and all your accessories are in place, clipped off, and you are ready for the entry. The pre-dive safety check is a simple but essential step to ensure that you have a safe and fun experience. If you've liked this video, check out our ultimate playbook on dive planning. Remember, safety first. I'll see you in the next one. Start exploring today.